Welcome to the Explainer. You know that universal feeling of, well, mild dread when you're standing in the shower and you suddenly notice the water is pooling around your ankles? Right. We sigh, we pour some random liquid drain cleaner down the plug hole, and we just kind of hope for the best. But what is actually going on down there in the dark? Today, based on some seriously eye-opening insights from Dr. Drain, we're exploring the chemical team-up, how soap scum and hard water minerals clog pipes. We are going to look at the secret undercover ways they are literally destroying your plumbing.
So what is actually causing that weird gurgling sound in your pipes? You probably have an immediate assumption. Most of us think a clogged drain is just a giant wad of hair or maybe some leftover food scraps causing a physical blockage. But honestly, that is rarely the full story. The true villain origin story of your plumbing woes is actually a fascinating chemical alliance happening right beneath your feet. Clogged drains are almost never caused by a single culprit. Instead, they're the result of a powerful team-up between two extremely common everyday elements.
Okay, let's dive into this. Our first culprit in this alliance, hard water minerals. If you live in an area with hard water, your water supply carries dissolved calcium and magnesium ions. Now, on their own, flowing right out of your tap, they're perfectly harmless. But when that water evaporates, or when it flows through warm plumbing, this fascinating chemical shift kicks in. These minerals actually precipitate. That means they transform from being completely dissolved invisible particles into solid physical deposits. And here's the kicker. In your drains, this doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It happens all around the existing grime in your pipes, forming an incredibly stubborn, rigid mineral structure. Which brings us to our second culprit, and I gotta say, this one actually surprised me the most: soap scum. We are all super familiar with that cloudy film on our shower glass, right? But chemically speaking, it is wild. Soap scum forms when the fats and oils inside your everyday bar soap or detergent chemically react with those exact same calcium and magnesium minerals we just talked about. So instead of just dissolving gracefully and rinsing away down the drain like soap is supposed to do, this reaction creates a super resilient residue. It desperately wants to cling to any surface where water repeatedly passes, whether that's your sink tiles, your shower walls, or, most problematically, the pitch black insides of your drain lines. And this brilliantly illustrates where the real danger lies: the devastating synergy between these two elements. Hard water minerals basically provide this rigid structural scaffold inside your pipes. But it's the soap scum that acts as the sticky glue. When you combine that tough mineral scaffold with this incredibly thick, tacky glue, you end up with a deposit that is infinitely stronger and way more difficult to remove than if you were just dealing with hard water or soap residue by itself. What absolutely blew my mind is that together, they are quite literally building a fortified wall inside your plumbing. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how this disaster builds over time. As you follow the chronological progression here, step 1 starts innocently enough. The minerals precipitate out of the warm water. Then, in step 2, that sticky soap scum reacts and adheres directly to those newly formed minerals. Step 3? Well, that's where things get really messy. Because that soap scum is so unbelievably sticky, it catches literally everything that passes by. Hair, food particles, skin cells, you name it. This trapped debris dramatically increases the overall surface area of the blockage, which gives the hard minerals even more room to latch on and grow. And finally, step 4. Over weeks and months, these combined deposits become denser and denser, actively shrinking the available diameter of your pipe. To really understand how this happens right under our noses, think about how this buildup actually feels in your own bathroom. Initially, homeowners almost always describe early soap scum buildup as simply slippery. You know the feeling, it just feels like a slick film on the bottom of the tub. It's the kind of thing that makes you do a miniature gymnastics routine just to avoid wiping out while you rinse your hair. At this stage, it seems totally harmless, easily ignorable. But as that chemical reaction keeps going, the texture seriously escalates. It shifts from slick and slippery to totally gritty and incredibly tacky. And in the dark, enclosed environment of your pipes, that tacky behavior is everything. Once those hard water minerals bind to the sticky residue, it turns the inside of your pipe into a literal trap, just grabbing onto every single piece of everyday debris that happens to float past it. So the crucial point is that over time, this chemical alliance doesn't just result in a gooey pile of sludge. No, it transforms into a layered rock-like deposit. This is its impenetrable final form. Because it has effectively petrified inside your plumbing, it absolutely cannot be flushed away by your routine rinsing or by just letting the hot water run for a few extra minutes. It is now a permanent structural addition to the inside of your pipe, and it's one that usually requires an expensive professional to come in and remove. Because this entire process is so gradual, it can be really, really easy to overlook until your sink just completely stops working one morning. But as that pipe diameter shrinks, it physically changes how water behaves as it flows down. You absolutely need to be looking out for these early physical symptoms: slower drainage than usual, strange gurgling sounds echoing from the drain after the water is passed, or temporary standing water while you're taking a shower. Actually, scratch that. These aren't just quirks of an old house. They are the literal early warning signs of a massive developing chemical clog.
Now, you might be wondering why this seems to happen so often, and honestly, so quickly in very specific parts of your house. Take a second and think about your morning shower. Why is it that the bathroom tub and the sink are the absolute ultimate breeding grounds for this specific type of chemical buildup? Let's find out.
It turns out your shower is practically engineered to accelerate this process. There are 4 specific danger zone factors at play here. First up, frequent temperature changes. Going from cold to hot encourages those hard water minerals to precipitate out of the water a lot faster. Second, heavy soap application. We're constantly providing a massive supply of fats and oils. Third, the constant addition of hair and skin oils gives the sticky trap the absolute perfect debris to grab onto. And finally, the warm oxygen-exposed environment of a bathroom sink or shower drain dramatically speeds up that mineral deposition. It causes those rock-like layers to harden faster, making them incredibly difficult to break apart.
But hey, here's the good news. You don't just have to sit there and wait for your pipes to turn to stone. You can actively break this cycle. Let's move to and see how this builds into an actionable plan to defeat these chemical villains. The goal here is to completely cut off the ingredients that feed these deposits before that shield becomes a permanent fixture in your plumbing.
The experts over at Dr. Drain suggest a few highly targeted prevention tactics to get this done. First, use a cleaner specifically designed to dissolve mineral scale and soap residue. And yeah, always follow the label directions for sure. Second, take a hard look at what you're actually putting down the drain. Choose low residue or hard water-friendly soaps and detergents to prevent that initial chemical reaction from even starting. Third, periodically flush your drains with a massive volume of hot water to stop any early residue from settling in. Fourth, and this is a huge one, use a physical hair strainer to eliminate the catch points where all that debris gets trapped in the glue. And finally, if this is just a constant, recurring nightmare for your home, consider installing a water softener. It removes the calcium and magnesium at the source, totally depriving the soap scum of its mineral scaffold.
Ultimately, it all comes down to being proactive rather than reactive. Treating the problem early keeps the pipes clear and prevents a massive, totally disruptive, and super expensive clog down the line. So I want you to ask yourself, are you treating your drains right now before the slowdown even starts? Or are you just waiting for that rock-like chemical deposit to completely take over your plumbing? The choice, and honestly the long-term health of your pipes, is entirely in your hands. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and we will see you next time.